here is an important point, and that is, in societies like Afghanistan, it is very important that the people see an element of legitimacy in the government. Legitimacy. But of course, it's important in the more advanced democratic societies, as well as it is important in other societies. How does a ruler acquire legitimacy, say in Canada, in Canadian democracy? Well, you go through the process of election. You get yourself elected leader of a party, and then you work to make that party elect the majority of members in parliament. And that is how you become a legitimate ruler. And so long as your term lasts, you are the legitimate ruler, even if your popularity dips down, as Brian Mulroney used to say when his popularity had reached 7%. He said, I called my mother last night, and she said, leave the number, I'll call you better. Yeah, but I mean, he was elected, he was the legitimate ruler. Now, in a country like Afghanistan, how do rulers acquire legitimacy? Afghanistan had been a monarchy. Modern Afghanistan, from the time it came into existence in 1747. It has been ruled by two branches of the Pushtun, the Saddozai and the Muhammadai. These were the two clans of the Pashtuns that had provided kings to Afghanistan over this long period of time. And you should also keep in mind, Afghanistan is a patchwork of tribes, but the Pashtuns constitute 45% of the population. And that means that there is no Afghanistan without Pashtuns, and there can be no government of Afghanistan without Pashtun participation in it. And the Pashtuns, the real Pashtuns, are from the south. So, now the king, Zahir, who ascended the throne in 1933 on the death of his father at the age of 17 and reigned for 40 years. He was overthrown in a sort of palace coup in 1973. The king had come back to Afghanistan and was willing to resume the responsibilities of government. But the American ambassador to Afghanistan, Zalmay Khalilzad, originally an Afghan himself, pressured the king to step aside in favor of Hamid Karzai, who was an official of UNOCAL. You know that? Yes, UNOCAL. And so Karzai was imposed on the Afghans in preference to the king. The king may have been able to revive old memories, his family, his dynasty, his own long reign, a number of reforms that he had undertaken when he was ruling. They could have contributed to the legitimacy of the government. What Mr. Karzai brings for the Afghans to accept him as the legitimate ruler when he is installed by the Americans. In their long history, Afghans have never accepted to be ruled by foreigners. Never accepted to be ruled by foreigners. And I'll just tell you one historical incident. The British invaded Afghanistan in 1839. And the purpose was to pacify Afghanistan and install a pro-British, a British-friendly king, Shah Shuja. Dost Muhammad, who was the king, was overthrown and exiled. And the British were here, and Shah Shuja was installed. And after 7 years, the British thought they had pacified, which means that they had succeeded in destroying the will of the Afghans to resist foreign domination. And so they decided to leave in 1846. Now, anyone of you who has been to Afghanistan and has been to Kabul know that Kabul is up there on a plateau. In order to go out, you have to come through a gorge. Now, coming through a gorge means large army formations cannot go through. You have to go in small formations. The Afghans knew that, and they killed every member of the British expedition, leaving one engineer to struggle to the border of India to tell the tale. Well, as the British went, so went Shah Shuja, and Dost Muhammad returned. Now, look at it. The Soviets came in 1980, and they brought Babrak Karmal and installed him as the president. Where is Babrak Karmal now? The Soviets are gone, so it's Babrak Karmal. Then come the Americans, and they bring Hamid Karzai. Will he last? After the Americans have withdrawn, I'm prepared to bet my last bottle of Chateau Neuf de Pape that Hamid Karzai will be gone as soon as the Americans are gone. We keep hearing from our government about the indicators of success: democracy, elections, parliament. But we never hear about cronyism, corruption, warlordism, which is all going on. And why is it? 6 years from the time that the Americans invaded Afghanistan, they're still fighting. 6 years. They went there in 2001. This is 2007. There is still fighting. I mean, if the arrival of the Americans were to be such a desirable thing, the Afghans should have embraced. But nobody has paused for a moment to think that in the recent past, first came the white boots of the Soviets. The white boots of the Soviets in a non-white country. Then came the white boots of the Americans. Then came the white boots of NATO. Then came the white boots of Canadians. Is there nobody in Ottawa who can think that there is no consonance between the white boots and the values of the Afghans? And, well, I'm sorry to say that regardless of all the claims of Stephen Harper and George Bush, this is an expedition, as the British used to call it. This is an expedition which will not succeed. It is bound to fail. We are wasting our lives and our treasure for something we don't even know what is it that we are actually seeking to accomplish.